lot to get to. Let's get to it. First, we have to start with the well-wishing for 2024. Lots of politicians are getting on that bandwagon, right? It's an easy tweet, beginning of 2024. A lot of them sent their tweet yesterday at 1 o'clock on the 1st. The reason I'm showing you this one is not to share Jagmeet's New Year's message, although I guess if you wanted to hear it, he says it's very benign. It's very, whatever, what you'd expect of the NDP. But I wanted to show you the ratio, right? Almost 1,000 comments, 400 likes. So a bit of a ratio going on there. Jagmeet Singh says, Happy New Year from my family to yours. As we move into 2024, I'm looking forward to all that we can build together. We will make life more affordable for Canadians everywhere. It's hypocritical because he's done the opposite. He's been successful at doing the opposite. And Olivia Chow is trying to sell the opposite to what has happened to Toronto as well, saying continue making life more affordable, et cetera, et cetera. Biden's been doing this as well, claiming victory over inflation, making things more affordable, all this stuff. But they have not made it more affordable. They have made it much less affordable. Their policies are bad and responsible for the affordability crisis, the housing crisis. All of these things are because of bad policy. They're saying on one side of their mouth, they're saying, we're trying to fix this problem, we're trying to fix this problem, we're trying to fix this problem. And on the other side, they're saying, oh, we're doing such a great job and, we'd like to celebrate and we're going to do more of that in 2024. So they are opportunists, charlatans, people who will claim victory when no victory has been had. And Tom Quiggin is responding to Olivia Chow's message, and he calls her Orwellian. Comrade Chow, he says, goes full Orwell. Do not believe what your eyes see, believe what she tells you, because what she tells you is absolute bunk. Mayor Olivia Chow says, Happy New Year. Working together over the last year, we've created a more welcoming city, a more caring city, a safer city, a more affordable city. Nope. Here, as I just wanted to show you the ratio. It's similar. The ratio is similar to Jagmeet Singh's ratio. So 1,000 tweets, 1,000 responses and 400 likes. And so people don't like what she's saying. They're calling her out for not representing reality when she's telling them that it's more affordable. Have you seen the price of milk, right? Have you seen the price of chocolate cereal? Actually, chocolate cereal is the same. So anyway, here's Olivia Chow. I just want you to hear what she's saying, and she's not being ironic, right? Here we go.
Time of reflection and a time of hope. The year that just passed was full of change. I myself took on new challenges that come with being mayor of this amazing city. It's been the joy of my life to work hard for you each and every day. Whatever your resolution this year might be, let it give you hope that will light your path for the year ahead. In 2024, I'm resolved to make this city a place where fewer people have to struggle so hard to get by. I'm resolved to build the hope that comes when a family finds an affordable place to live, when people can get home or to work on time through fast, reliable transit, and when we build complete neighborhoods with community centers, playgrounds, and libraries.
She's advocating people getting to work on time because of fast, reliable transit and building 15-minute type cities, right? She's advocating for all of the leftist tropes that we are. A lot of people are worried about that are going to roll into digital ID, the CBDCs, social credit scores, and all the rest. And it's just interesting that they're right out there. They're very confident and they're selling it like it's a good thing. People are going to believe this is a good thing. It used to be when you talked about getting to work on time, it meant you were talking about getting the snow cleared and talking about getting the highway with enough lanes to serve the volume of cars so that there's not rush hour traffic that takes you double the time to get home instead of, the hour it should take. And now, the traffic's so bad that it takes 2 hours to get into Toronto, never mind during rush hour at 3 to 5 p.m. It's terrible. And Olivia Chow is talking about, commuter trains and things like that. It's out of touch. It doesn't actually address people's problems. It just pushes the false narrative that they're trying to prop up. Here's the rest of Olivia Chow's thing.
Working together over the last year, we've created a more welcoming city, a more caring city, a safer city.
Just wear your bulletproof vest, right? Obviously.
and a more affordable city.
A more affordable.
I hope you'll continue to join me in that work in this new year. Happy New Year to everyone. I wish you all the best in the new year.
Are we being punked? Honestly. Is this a joke? Is Chi laughing at this? Is this like, show me another episode of Canada? Like, just the supercut. It's fine. Yeah. I just want to laugh. Like, oh my gosh. Sassy Gal says, whatever they do next, do not comply. Without mass compliance, the Great Reset can't be accomplished. Without mass compliance, the social credit system can't be accomplished. Without mass compliance, a dystopian totalitarian state can't be accomplished. Stop complying. You'll be glad you did. It's the people who believe what Olivia Chow is saying who are still complying with all of the stuff that's going on. And I guess that's the first step. It seems like mass noncompliance is what brought the masking down, is what brought a lot of the COVID restrictions down. They've got an iron grip, right, on government agencies. Alberta has, no, not Alberta, excuse me, BC has masking mandates in hospitals. I read a story about it yesterday in Twitter, a first person story. They said they were hesitating to visit their parents or their dad was in hospital. They didn't want to visit their dad because masking was in place. They went to the hospital anyway, and they said, I'm not wearing the mask. They just declined the mask when they went into the hospital. They had interactions with doctors, nurses. They got to visit with their dad, and everything went great. Nobody said a word about the lack of masking, and it just made me think that I think we're in the beginning phases of people realizing that this is not helpful. Although there are a lot of people very, very convinced. Later in the show, I've got Seth MacFarlane getting into it with Bill Maher, and I thought Seth MacFarlane was a little bit more in touch with things than he is, but holy smoke, he's like COVID frightened little girl. I don't know what happened to the guy. It's like watching a Brian skit. I was waiting for the funny, but it didn't ever come. Anyway, back to this just to make sure we don't get too off track. Robbie says, "What's the biggest threat to the British people in 2024?" What do you think is the biggest threat to Canadian people if this question were posed to us? Russia. 1.9% of people think Russia is the biggest threat to Britain in this poll of 1,900 people, or our own establishment, the WEF, and 98% said yes. Our own establishment and WEF is more dangerous than Russia, right? The biggest threat, right? Wow, it's pretty impressive. I agree with that, to be completely honest with you. Here's Green Day, and I think it's weird, this bands from our youth, my youth. Like, these guys were not old, but Green Day was an established band, touring band. Edgefest 98 was crazy. I saw these guys live. Somebody threw a water bottle and that was it. People were upset, almost walking off the stage, throw one more bottle and we're out of here. Stop acting like children. And we were children. Anyway, it was interesting. It's interesting to see these guys touring now. Blink-182's touring. They're putting on it's like $1,000 a ticket. It's crazy. I just think it's a strange kind of trope, and it's even more. It's like going to a Neil Young show to be fed government propaganda. I don't get it. Why would you go? And so apparently, Cat Turd is pointing this out, and he's responding to Consequence, who says Green Day Billy Joe Armstrong altered the lyrics of American Idiot to sing "I'm not a part of the mega agenda." So really, during the band's performance of Ryan Seacrest's New Year's Rockin' Eve. Does anybody watch that? We watched the rainbow fireworks in London. That's all we watched. I thought this picture was hilarious. Like, it's Justin Trudeau waving. Obviously, he's not giving any kind of sign or anything like that. But people who are making thumbnails are going to utilize that and put it up. It just looks funny. He's doing he's waving to people, but it looks like a Nazi salute, to be honest with you. And so he's doing this, and Zelensky's standing there, and considering that Trudeau's government invited a Nazi and everybody gave him a standing ovation, him doing this just struck me as funny. CTV running with this picture as their headline picture strikes me as funny. Anyway, they say, for as long as it takes, Trudeau reaffirms support for Ukraine in call with Zelensky, and we'll see what Trudeau's tweet says about that. But Ryan is responding to this. Zelensky's first call of the year, he claims, was with Trudeau. He wrote a long message, but it ends with what it's all about, using us as a bottomless ATM machine for as long as it takes, he says. I'm also grateful for the reassurance that Canada's support for Ukraine will continue this year, both in terms of military and financial assistance. We value cooperation with Canada and we appreciate every step in support of our state and our independence. Operationally, I think, and we were talking about this over Christmas dinner. My younger brother was talking about this, and he said he'd read a news article talking about our ability to defend ourselves. Our ammunition supply would run out in 3 or 4 days or something like that. And he was saying, how is that acceptable to now also send money to Ukraine? How is that? Like, how can we do that? And so then people change the subject quickly because that's just how things happen. But it's interesting that people are having questions about that as well and bringing it up in mixed company. Interesting. And it raised my eyebrows. Here's Justin Trudeau's tweet about our never-ending bottomless pit of money that we're going to throw to Ukraine. Justin says, as Russia's invasion of Ukraine enters its second winter, this thing's been going on since 2014. Like, really. Ukrainians can count on Canada's support for as long as it takes. That's the message I shared on the phone with Zelensky this morning. So, blah. And looking forward says, stop giving away my tax dollars to another country's war. Resign now. And I would agree with that sentiment. I absolutely would. Andrew Coyne, this Admiral, Dean Sikorio, is responding to this article, and he says this is the same Vice Admiral who's comfortable with putting tampons inside of men's washrooms. And so this Vice Admiral says Canadians are overly comfortable as global security shifts. Vice Admiral says. So here's part of this article. In recent year-end interview, he rattled off a list of international issues he's keeping a close eye on, from the ongoing Russia invasion of Ukraine and Israel's war on Hamas to a string of recent coups in African nations, friction in the Balkans, and challenges in South American countries like Venezuela that are fueling mass migration. We're in the middle of this, and I'm not sure everybody understands that the security and defense situation globally has deteriorated significantly, he said. Canadians have always felt relatively safe because we were surrounded by 3 oceans and the United States. This guy said, but it's his responsibility to be aware of what may be coming, and he's not optimistic. Ooh, fear, 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 right? Like CTV is stoking those fear words, right? He says, quote, I'm very happy Canadians feel safe and secure. I also think it's very naive, he said. He cited increasing competition between major world powers and tension between the countries that are committed to the rules-based international order and those challenging it, like China, Russia, and Iran. Yesterday, we were told that young Iranians were the cure to Islamophobia and anti-Semitism all at the same time, all wrapped into one. Just bring an Iranian, right? Sure. It has to be a young Iranian because they're fighting the mullahs or whatever the rationale was. I think it's ridiculous. But anyway, that's the two-facedness of the news, speaking out of both sides of their mouths. Back to this. All of that makes it more difficult to be a middle power. Do you really think that we're a middle power? He said, especially one that hasn't kept with investing in new security capabilities. We don't have, like, forget security capabilities. We don't have sleeping bag technology. Like, we don't have enough equipment for the troops we have, so they keep leaving and going to anywhere else. You got a paper route? Yeah, that's probably better. While he wouldn't say whether Canada has less influence than it once did, he said he is being asked questions he didn't used to face. I get questions from our closest allies about our commitment and questioning us as a reliable partner, questioning our investments moving forward, he said. I honestly, truthfully, the last NATO exercise we were supposed to participate in, and then we didn't participate in it, I really truly believe that it had to do with the cost of fueling the ships or the aircraft or the combination of ships and aircraft. And somebody said, that's not in the budget. We don't have that, $7 million or whatever it is. And somebody asked for it. Can we have $7 million for this NATO thing? And somebody said no. And somebody then had to come up with a reason that we couldn't do it. And they said, oh yeah, well, we're just doing stuff. We're just being Canadian, so we can't participate. Here's 3 staff, okay? Here's 3 staff to your Houthi fight, right? Jeepers creepers. So it just seems to me that we're doing things in a selfish way. We are not living up. I don't think we're living up to our NATO commitments. And I think that it's a red flag that closest allies, are coming up and having questions, right? It's like, man, there's some problems if that's the conversations that are had. If people aren't coming to you and saying, what do you think about this situation? What do you think we should do? And instead coming to you and saying, do you mind getting a third of the bill here? Because we've noticed that you're not paying anything ever. That's a bad conversation, right? Nobody's looking for our expertise. They just want our cash because it seems like we're riding coattails. Andrew Leslie is talking about this too, and he is a former lieutenant general. I think he's retired, former member of parliament for Orleans and retired L-Gen, lieutenant general, I think, of the Canadian Forces. And he says, it's a dangerous world out there. Canada is worth defending and defending well. Investing in credible deterrence is far less expensive than a tragic war. And so I've been wondering about our capabilities, and I asked, don't we have 3 days of ammunition and declining recruitment and retention? What do you make of that? Right? And I mean, isn't that a bigger threat? You know what I'm saying? Like, isn't the way the government is behaving, the way the military itself, the Canadian Armed Forces is behaving, detrimental to its own survival? And what do you do about that when the government, when the CAF can't retain, can't recruit, doesn't have the equipment, right? Can't send people to NATO committed missions? Why not? Why not? And we're sending money to Ukraine for their military? What the heck is going on? How does that make any kind of sense? It doesn't. I'll tell you that. Let's talk about carbon. It's wild stuff. Here's Katherine McKenna attacking Scott Moe. Really? She says, so Scott Moe, this is December 29th when this all went down, I guess. December 30th when Katherine McKenna unleashed this vile attack. In the Regina Leader post, Moe is quoted, somebody's quoted, unfortunate for Saskatchewan to break federal emissions law. Premier Moe, Saskatchewan. Premier Moe once said a fundamental pillar of the Canadian democracy is the rule of law. His province is now prepared to break it. So it's a opinion piece talking about Scott Moe repealing the carbon tax on other forms of heat after the federal government repealed carbon tax on heating oil in order to transition people to heat pumps that probably won't actually do the job efficiently or well or at all. Anyway, Scott Moe did that. They're saying it's illegal and against the rule of law, and Katherine McKenna is doubling down and getting right in on this dirty fight, right? She says, Dear Scott Moe, the rule of law is fundamental to our democracy. The disdain you show for it is unbenefiting a premier and puts our country on a dangerous road, all because you don't want to take effective climate action, the worst kind of politician. I think that it's interesting as well that they take something like what Scott Moe is doing, which is exactly what Justin Trudeau is doing federally. He's just doing it provincially, and he has the right to do that. He did it. It seems to be within the law, right? So, and I'm sure that the courts will sort it out, but here we are. And fundamentally, they're now making it a rule of law offense. You are violating the rule of law, and the rule of law is this, this ideal that we're supposed to hold up, and it's supposed to be the shining glimmer of freedom and truth or something like that. But you're violating the rule of law, Scott Moe. And it's no longer about the thing that he did or the details about it, right? The repealing the carbon tax on these heating oils and heating, home heating and so on and so forth. It's not about that minutia. It's now about a violation of rule of law, and they can package that up and sell that. He's violating the rule of law. And so that's interesting. It's just interesting how they transform these things. It's mental gymnastics. Katherine McKenna is the worst. Where are the receipts, Katherine? How much money did you spend, and where did you spend it? What did we get for it? The most important question is the last one. Andrew is talking about this. I added wholesale gas prices to my electricity price graph. You can see that between 2010 and 2020, gas prices were falling, but electricity prices were rising. So you can see when privatization happened in the UK and the retail electricity prices started to fall, and then renewables came in 2004, and electricity prices are now more expensive than when it was, when it was state run. I still have a little tickle in my throat. I think it's environmental. I think that it is something in the air that's making me, I don't feel sick. I don't have a cough, but there's something irritating my throat, and I don't know what it is. And it's not specifically just in my garage. It's just kind of around here. Anyway, it is annoying, and I apologize for clearing my throat into the microphone. I try not to do that. Carrying on. Oh, with this electricity, you can see a clear down. Well, this tweet person says that graph shows a clear downward trend until 2004, then upwards ever since. Hard to deny that we're paying more as renewable penetration and the subsidies continue to increase. So yeah, paying a lot more, and it is not at all what was promised. Here is an electric car on fire, blowing up, and Robert says, looks like electric cars do contribute to climate change. Doesn't that mess up the net zero thing? Here is it looks like it's on a charging station, and it hasn't. This is the beginning of the video. Like, that wasn't a small explosion. I'm just gonna get my purse. Don't get your purse. Yaza, right? I shared that with people. I shared that with people who, a holiday chat group, and I said, don't get an electric car, don't get an EV, not even once. And somebody in the group said, my brother's got one, and this other person's got one. And I was like, oh man. Somebody else in the chat had one, and I was like, oh man, good luck. I hope it doesn't blow up on you. Albertarian says, Justin Trudeau, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, and John R., all three strong believers in renewable energy. Here they are, showing the failures 3 times of renewable energy. They've got these little electric go-karts, and the go-karts appear to be very poorly made go-karts, and they don't work. You'd think that they would work. You'd think somebody would test them. You'd think somebody would do some kind of preliminary round of like, are these things going to drive? You'd be wrong. Here we go.
Take them too. Look up, guys. Push it.
Still working on it. None of them worked. One worked a little tiny bit. It drove a little tiny bit, but none of them actually did anything they were supposed to do. Pretty crazy stuff. Let's talk about businesses. One of the things I was talking about at the beginning of the show is, why is the government giving free money to Ukraine and Canadian businesses got loans? Here's Dan Kelly, and he's the president of and CEO of the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, the CFIB. And I gave him a hard time all through 2020. And I asked continually, why loans? Why are we accepting loans? Why aren't you demanding a reopening of the economy? Loans can't sustain an economy, all sorts of stuff. And he, to his credit, he didn't block me, and he engaged with me more than he had to. So honestly, good on him. But it's one of those things where I still have questions. I don't understand how this is good enough. I don't understand how anybody would accept this as a solution or even a plan if we're all in Canada and you'd give foreign countries free money for nothing. But in Canada, businesses who are struggling because you shut down the economy get loans? What? Right? Like, what? Why? Explain the rationale, right? It doesn't make any sense at all. Dan Kelly, anyway, after all of this, says, after many conversations with government, I'm convinced there will be no last-minute reprieve, granting more time to small businesses struggling to repay their CEBA loans. Yesterday, December 31st, was the repayment deadline for the 50,000 businesses that have been deemed ineligible. In the spring of 2024, collection efforts will begin for those who have not repaid. Government will assess no penalties and provide 5% interest over up to a 2-year repayment period. CFIB will continue to advocate for an extra year and a process to review files with minor errors to protect the forgivable portion. But for the 850,000 businesses that remain eligible for CEBA, now is the time to repay if you possibly can. You only have until January 18th to repay to ensure you can keep the 10 to 20,000 forgivable portion. If you can borrow to repay the loan, you need to apply with your original CEBA bank before January 18th. Applying for a loan can allow an extension to March 28th to arrange financing. If you remain eligible but cannot repay by January 18th, you will lose the forgivable portion, but will have 3 years to repay the balance at 5% interest. I mean, what do you think is going to happen? I'm predicting something that's going to happen at the end of this 3 years, right? I'm predicting there's going to be a whole bunch of people who can't pay it. More details are available here. I wish I had better news to share. I believe government will regret the decision not to grant more time as small businesses fail and default on their entire loan. This will be a tough stretch ahead. CFIB will continue to advocate for fairness in the winding down of one of Canada's largest small business support programs, together with the January 1 hikes in CPP and EI premiums, which if you're self-employed, you have to do both. You have to pay both. This is not good. This is not a good start to 2024 for the nation's small businesses. While there will be a welcome reduction in credit card fees later this year, we have a lot of fights ahead, including fairness for small firms under the federal carbon tax. And so all of that is interesting to me because, our economy is being hamstrung by bad policies and missteps and handing out predatory loans. Here's another weird thing that I thought was weird for Dan Kelly to say. He says, I should add how much CFIB appreciates the support of the NDP, the Bloc, and the Green parties on the CEBA file. They have been great to work with. What? They've enabled these predatory loans. They've sent a whole lot of money to Ukraine while hamstringing businesses with bad policies and giving out predatory loans, but they've been great to work with. They've just been wonderful. In more predatory lending news, Holly Doan is reporting Feds Finance Canada in legal notice on Christmas Eve proposed to allow pawnbrokers to charge 60% interest on loans. Minister Freeland promised reforms to 1980 usury laws to protect the most vulnerable. The most vulnerable, of course, being the pawnbrokers. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful